Welcome to Craft and Crashouts with your co-hosts Mick and Ari. We are both writers trying to become traditionally published, and on this podcast, we meet every week to discuss craft, progress, and what we are currently crashing out about. I do have some fun news.
Do tell.
This is my first mug that has come out of the kiln since my new studio.
Mick, it's so beautiful. Also,
Look
that
at
handle.
her.
That's like the most perfect handle.
Thank you. It is a little wonky up here, but yeah, I like a thick, good handle.
No,
and I
it
love the
looks so good.
glaze.
The glaze,
is
how did
so
you do it?
fun.
It's like multiple colors, or is it one glaze?
So this one is called Winterwood by Mako Glaze. So my clay is reddish brown clay, and it's speckled on its own. Glaze is just science. Like, it is science, and glaze stresses me out because I'm not good at science. But so like with Winterwood, it's like bits of iron that cause like the explosions of speckles in the glaze. And then over it is something called, I think it's Lavender Mist, also by Mako. And so what happens is like you get the purple, but then it like makes the iron speckles run. I don't know how.
That's
It's like
cool.
So it's really fun to play
like,
around with glaze, but it's scary.
I feel like it is so scary because you just never know how it's going to turn out. One of my favorite science classes, like when I was a child, I think I must have been like in 5th grade, but the science teacher, they would take all of these different elements and then like have a Bunsen burner and then you would like burn them. So it was like manganese would be like green and iron would be some color. I can't remember. And I never thought about how that relates to pottery, but like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's a ton
so
of
fascinating
metals in pottery. And then there's also like a little bit of like glass because that's what is going to give it like this like sheen. Yeah.
Right?
Everything is a variable. Like every single thing is a variable. Which is fun. It makes glazing really fun. Like I love how this turned out.
No, you show me that mug and you describe it as wonky, but I really don't see it as wonky.
I know. See, and this is just because this is art, right? Someone else looks at it and they're like, flawless, amazing. And I'm like,
flawless, amazing.
I can literally see, like, I see the wonkiness when I look at it. Like, it's straighter here and then it curves nice here. There's so much stuff, but it's like, I only see it because I made it. And that's a great lesson.
Yeah.
For all of us out there creating art, because we're always our harshest critic.
And that's the episode. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. We'll see you next week. That was the easiest episode we've ever done. Mikayla talks about pottery again, and she brought it back to writing. Have a great week.
But it always works so well. I still really think about your slip comment, like, frequently.
Hey.
I was like, that was so beautiful.
Thank you. It's true. It holds everything together, and we can use that with, we can reuse our writing. Yeah, pottery is great. I feel like, I don't know, I just love pottery. And I just feel like every writer should go out there and do like some other craft of some sort, Yeah,
I agree with you. I agree with you completely.
Okay, so what are you going to do?
I am not a hobby girl.
So we got to get you on.
I hate to say it. Honestly, the reason I stumbled upon writing was because I was like so desperately trying to become a hobby girl. I was like, I'm going to buy watercolors. I'm going to try like gouache painting. I'm going to try knitting and crocheting and like procreate art. Like I tried everything and I was just like, this ain't it. Like this ain't it for me. I don't know why. And then I started writing and I was like, this is it. But I cannot get into hobbies. I don't know why. I feel like writing is just like my hobby and I'm like so deeply in. But I feel like for me, it's like, I think I can equate like your pottery, I think is like me with exercise almost is like, I'm trying to go back to the gym and I was like big into cycling. Like I love cycling. I just find it so fun because I'm like, yes, we're basically at a dance party, but like on a bike. And like, I haven't been to the gym in a while and I'm like trying to get my fitness back. And, the first couple goes were really, really hard. And I was like, you know what? Like you don't have to push. You don't even have to put resistance up. Like you just need to stay on. Just like stay on the bike and like keep going for like 20 minutes. Like you can do that. And I feel like that was kind of like my lesson is like the hardest part is just like staying on. Like you don't need to do these like
Yeah.
fancy tricks and like push really hard or get your heart rate up to all of these things. Or like in cycling, you can like push on and off the bike and go from like a jog to a seated position. And that was kind of my lesson of just like, you don't need to do it all. You just need to hang on for dear life.
No, but I think that's I like that. One, I'm also, I've been trying to be a gym girly this year. I die at cycling classes, so
Yeah.
impressive. But I
Oh,
think
I
that's a
don't
good
go to a
analogy.
class.
Oh, okay.
I just
Do you
go
have
into the
Peloton?
room. No, I just go into the like cycling room at my gym when it's empty and there's no classes. And I'll like listen to a podcast or like I'll put
You
on
do
like
it
a YouTube.
yourself?
Yeah, because I hate the social pressure of like, well, I am nowhere near in shape enough to be in a cycling class and go for like a full hour. Like, I think I would actually die. So I just like go in there and it means like I can set my pace, I can set the amount of time, I can listen to whatever I want to listen to. Yeah. I love how your mind is blown right now.
For those not watching, I'm literally been mouth open since I found out that Ari does this alone. I would simply just never do that. I
Oh, I love
That
it.
alone is so impressive. Like, what do you mean? Like what do you mean? Like I like for something like cycling, I feel like it's such an aggressive workout. It's like what you're saying with like
Yeah.
just hanging on and just going for the ride is very much cycling. Like
Mm-hmm.
the fact that
Yeah.
you have like the sheer willpower to do it on your own is like
To be
admirable.
clear, to be clear, I used to do cycling classes and like I loved it. And I have not been able to go to the gym for reasons.
Mhm.
And now I'm like finally back, but I'm like, I cannot, like, I think I will genuinely faint if I go to a cycling class. So I'm like
I
trying to
think you should
get
go.
my way there.
But I think you can still go and do what you're doing, which is like sit. I've definitely
Okay.
gone to classes where I sit
Okay. I think I
and
just
I
have
just
like
bike.
social anxiety about group fitness classes.
Yeah, that's so fair. But see, everyone in the group fitness class is thinking the exact same thing. Every single
Yeah.
person is worried about everyone looking at them. So no one's actually looking at anyone else because they're
Mm,
so worried about everyone looking at them.
that's so fair.
And
That's so
that's why
fair.
you go early and you go in
Yeah.
the back, 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 back.
Oh,
I
I
go in
love
the
being in the
way
back.
back. I go,
I'm a
and then
back row girl. Yes.
yes. And then cycle classes are dark. So it's like you
Hmm.
legitimately can't see me. Like, no matter
Yeah.
how hard you try,
Yeah.
you couldn't see me back there. So
Yeah.
I think you should
100%.
go.
You know what? My aim for when we record next week is that I will
Mm-hmm.
have gone to 1 hour long class. I'm going to have
Yay.
you hold me to it.
That's fun. No, but I
Yeah.
think fitness is a good analogy too. Like, it doesn't have to be, I guess, an artistic hobby for writers. I think it was like in our second episode when I talked about it as like my inspiration for the week. We were talking about like exposure therapy to failure.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I really mean. I think we all just need exposure therapy to failure. And like
Yeah.
fitness is a great way to expose
Yeah.
yourself to failure and to know how to mentally push past it.
What a great way to phrase it. I completely
Yeah.
agree. Yeah. Beautifully said.
So you're going to go to a cycle class and I'm going to not. This sounds like a great week. So
No,
welcome to our
you can go
podcast
too.
where Mikayla bullies Ari into working out and she doesn't.
Craft and crashing on a bike. That will be us.
That's like the title with no context. No one watches this episode because they're like, what the
What
heck are
is
these girls
this?
talking about? Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Wow.
Okay, so what have you been reading this week, Mick?
What a long intro. Yes, what am I reading? I'm still finishing up Long Bright River. So I do this thing where like I am reading on every format possible. And people
yes.
people call me crazy in my real life.
Not crazy to me. You make
Thank
perfect
you.
sense to me.
I think it makes perfect sense. So I have Long Bright River as my physical book read, but I also have a Kindle read. But right now, the one that's been taking the top reading spot has been The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley, which I've been
Oh.
listening to on audiobook because I have been in the pottery studio a lot or doing
Mm.
activities where I'm listening to a lot of audiobooks. And so The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley.
What
I
a good name. What a good title.
I know. It's actually really good. I also find myself like when I am back in more of like a drafting groove, I can't read anything similar to what I'm writing. Like I don't
Yeah.
want anything kind of similar. So I read a lot of like mystery and thrillers because I don't write
Mm.
mystery thrillers. And so I
Yeah.
don't know why that's kind of what I gravitate towards, but I feel like you can tell when I'm back in a writing groove because then I start reading mystery thrillers. And Long Bright River is like a mystery thriller, and The Hunting Party is a mystery. It's like 12 guests, but it's like a group of friends who do like a yearly New Year's Eve party, and they're all adults, like in their 30s, mid 30s, and they go to a hunting lodge in the middle of the Scottish wilderness, and one ends up dead, and you don't know who, and
This
then
is
one of
so
them
Agatha
killed them.
Christie-esque.
Yeah. It's
Hmm.
really great. And what's funny is I picked it up because I think I've mentioned there's deer
Yeah.
hunting in my book, and there's a hunting lodge in my book. And I thought it would have a lot more like hunting reference. It doesn't. It's just a mystery. So I did actually pick it up with the intent to like research a bit, but it has nothing about really hunting. But it's a really good book. Highly
Mm.
recommend. I've read a lot of Lucy Foley, so I like a lot of her stuff.
Yeah. No, that sounds like a really, I feel like also those kinds of mystery books,
Mhm.
I blow through them. I read them so
Yeah.
quickly because they do such a good job of hooking you to the point where you're like, I want to get to the end. I want to get to the end. I want to know what happens, you know?
Yeah. And what's interesting is in Hi,
Little
you
man decide I'm sitting
cutie.
on the floor today and he has decided to say hello.
As he should, as he should. Okay, what
This
are
is
you
Ollie
reading?
for whoever does not
Oh
know.
yeah.
This is my little dog who's sticking his nose in my face if you're not watching. You
He's a
want to say
delight.
hello? Oh, don't eat it. Okay. I love him. Um,
Uh,
what am I reading this week? For the first time, am unprepared and I left my book in the other room. But it's also
oh,
because we're filming from a new location. This this is my bedroom bookshelf and it's like so vibey. And I was like, you know
I
what?
love
Like this is
it.
such a fun little backdrop. But I am reading Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriquez. I want to say I'm like under 100 pages in, and it
Okay.
is a translation from Spanish, I believe. But
Hmm.
it is so good. She does such a fabulous job of building so much mystery around their
Mm.
characters. Like her characters are fascinating to the point where I'm like, I need to know what this character's story is because I genuinely have no idea what's going on. Just beautiful job. I'm not even that far into it, but I'm really enjoying it so far.
I love that you said that because I bought this book and I've been waiting to read it when the mood strikes. But I've heard amazing, amazing, amazing things. And I've been trying to read more translated works
Yeah.
recently. We have like a local bookstore that only sells translated works.
Ooh,
And
that's really neat.
yeah, but I love the mystery part too. I think that brings up like a good point with books. Like I even just started thinking about my own book because I don't know. There's like a need in the beginning of every book, of course, to like info dump, especially in the beginning drafts, and also kind of like make sure everyone knows everything about your character.
Hmm.
But there is something so powerful. I guess I never really put that together when like reading, when you're dropped in, and I think it just makes the characters feel more real, like alive, like you're truly getting dropped in on a random day of their life, and
Yes.
you're just getting like breadcrumbs of their past, and it slowly unfolds instead of you like figuring out who they are within the first two chapters.
100%. And I think that is really hard to do. And I think also it's that stuff, right? Exactly what you just said, where you have a character. you're kind of dropped in, you don't fully understand, and then it's slowly the mystery unfolding. But what, and I don't think this is a spoiler at all, but what she does so well is these characters are normal in certain ways, and then their reactions or like certain things that they do are so abnormal that you're like, wait a minute, what is the story here? And it's not abnormal
Mm.
as in like I need to suspend disbelief, like this doesn't seem realistic type thing, but it's abnormal in like this is coming from somewhere and I am just so curious to see how this gets explained type thing.
Interesting. Is it in third person or first?
Let me go get my book. One second.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's third. Yeah, it's 1,000% third. And I thought it was, but I
Interesting.
just didn't want to get it wrong. Yeah, it's third person, but it's close third.
Is it just one person's POV or multiple?
Multiple.
Okay,
It's
cool.
really, it's really good.
Okay.
And
Okay, good to
it's
know.
a little bit horror
Yeah,
and a little bit,
because didn't
um,
like the mom
yeah.
die?
And that's not a spoiler. That's literally on the black
Yeah, it's like in the back
blurb on the
of
back.
from like a demon, and then they're like driving down to her hometown.
Yes. So
Okay.
they're united in grief. A father son pair travel to their mom's ancestral home where they must confront the terrifying legacy she has bequeathed, a family called the Order that commits unspeakable acts in search of immortality. So it's a little bit of horror, a little bit of cult, a little bit of, it's just chef's kiss. And I'm really not even that far in. So I'm just excited to see where we go.
Love it. Okay, sounds like we have some good reads this week.
Yeah. But what have you been working on this week? I know last week we both were slaying the game.
Yeah, I know. Last week we were both like in our feels, like
Yeah.
not writing, sad. It's been good. I still haven't written every day this week. And I didn't even really do the thing I said I was going to do, which was going to try to like romanticize my writing. I think we talked about last week, but I do feel like just having kind of like the crash out last week helped to take the pressure off a bit
Yeah.
for this week. So I really just tried to fit writing in where it makes sense because I've been at the studio a lot. Like yesterday, I had a super busy day. I only had 1 hour in between one event to the next, but I
Mhm.
sat down and I wrote 1,800 words in an hour, which
That's
is like
really
a
good.
lot for
That's a
me,
lot. Yeah.
at least lately. Like sometimes I'm a fast writer and sometimes I'm really not.
Yeah.
Stuff like that has been happening recently. Still chugging along. I think I've realized why I'm dragging my feet is because a lot of these scenes are like really emotional and I know how much work these scenes are going to be in like next drafts cuz like obviously like, the emotional payoff is not there in draft 1, but I'm still trying to like make sure I set the scene up properly. Like the posts of the house kind of thing. Isn't there a word for that? Foundation. I'm a writer. Yeah, so I'm still trying to just make sure the foundation of those scenes are there so I don't have to like, you know, completely rework plot and
Mhm.
structure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of like heavy duty emotional scenes as we near the end of the book.
And I feel like it's so easy when you have these like really critical, deeply emotional scenes to just get really intimidated by them because it's
Yeah.
just like so easy to be like, I know exactly what this needs to do. But if it's like heavy lifting, nuanced, um, complicated to write, like, you know, you're not going to get it right the first time. Right. And so, like, it really is like, yes, you want to set the foundation, but yeah, I hear you. Especially scenes like that, I get really, really easily intimidated.
Mhm.
But it
So what
sounds
have you
like there
been
was a
working
lot
on?
of really good writing progress for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I had some good writing days, some like good like 2,000 word days
That's
here and
amazing.
there. Like to even though the holidays are coming up, I really want to get back to like writing every day, even if it's like 200 words a day, but making sure I'm writing something even in the busy days. I've been
Yeah.
writing a lot more at night, which is so unlike me.
Welcome. I
I know.
love writing at night. How
I
is
know.
it for
Ari
you?
Ari and I are in a Discord and there's some people in our Discord channel where I'm like, why are you guys writing at 11 p.m.? I'm not going to call out Joy, but Joy writes so late. I mean, she's a mom, so I understand, but I'm like, I could simply never. I could simply never. I'm like asleep with my like Therabody face mask glowing around me, my
Amazing.
red light bulb on next to me,
Amazing.
reading a book, and then I get a notification. It's like someone's sprinting. I'm like, what is going on, guys? It is bedtime. It's bedtime.
It's time to snooze. No, you can never tell me that nighttime writing is not superior. There is something, and I don't know if this is because I've just like conditioned myself for
Mm.
years of like, I only wrote like after my 9 to 5, but I genuinely, I try to write during the day. And there is something so delicious about the hours of like 8 to 11 p.m. where it's dark out and you have like your mood lighting on, like this light here,
Mhm. Mhm.
and you put your headphones on, you put your music on, and you're also like really tired. So like you're like slightly delirious. And I
Mm.
really do think that the exhaustion helps you channel into that creativity. I will
Yeah.
say it doesn't lead to the best quality, but if you just need to churn and get some words down, it's great. Like, what's that? I think it's a Hemingway quote, like, write drunk, edit sober.
Yeah.
Um, Writing at night is my writing drunk portion. And then, like, during the day, if I need to edit, like, that's when I will edit.
That makes sense though. I mean, yesterday I wasn't writing at night night. I'm saying for me it felt like at night cuz I'm like writing from like, 9 to 11 a.m. normally, but I wrote from like 4 to 5 p.m. yesterday, which doesn't seem late for me, but it
That is late
is,
for you. Yeah.
especially because it's been getting dark, like pitch black by 4.
Yes.
So I felt like it was the wee hours of the night. So honestly, there was something about it. I mean, I churned out some new words for me,
Yeah.
and today I'm gonna have to write late too. So we'll see how it goes. But
Join us. You'll have to let us know also in the comments if you're a daytime writer, if you're a nighttime writer,
yeah,
and
let us know.
why it works better for you. I'm so curious.
What are you working on this week?
I have been avoiding my draft. Okay, I think it's just like sometimes when life is going on or whatever, I just don't have the like emotion. It's either two things. I either don't have the emotional capacity to think of my story,
Mm,
or it's like that's all I want to do is like an escapist thing. And so what I did is I actually printed out like 5 chapters of Act 2, and I went through and I edited them up and I wrote notes and I did all that. And then I am finally hitting the roadblock where it's like, yeah, maybe this is a little bit why you shouldn't edit as you go, because the scenes were actually
mm,
solid. They were fine. But then I found myself like, I just felt like I was wasting time having to incorporate all of these notes into my Scrivener doc, even though like the scene fundamentally wasn't changing. It was just like little notes that I had written to myself, or little turns of phrase, or just like grammatical things that I needed to fix. And I was like, okay, so like if it's fine and there's nothing really problematic structurally with these scenes, like, let me just keep drafting. And I don't know why. I think it just felt like because I had edited those scenes, like I had to take that work of like having read
mm,
through them and incorporate them. Otherwise, it felt wasteful, but it just was delaying everything. And so I just kind of forced myself to put those pages away and be like, just start drafting again. Like, don't worry about it. It's fine. Those pages are going to be there and you can incorporate them back whenever you want. Like, there's nothing wrong with the scenes structurally or like big arc wise or whatever. So I sat down and I started writing, and I was just like, you know what? I feel like I'm not in the headspace for this. I kind of like outlined my scenes and then I came back to it the next day and it was fine. And I think I am very much the type of person where it's like I like to write every day, exactly like you were saying. Like I like having that kind of routine if I write every day. But sometimes if there's just like a lot going on, like
yeah.
I really had to be kind of kind to myself this week of just like, you know what? It's fine. If you're not in the right headspace for it, you're not in the right headspace. Like you have to look at your track record. Like my track record is like I am the type of person that like I sit down and I write every day. Like I'm not trying to avoid it, but just like sometimes there are just like seasons where you need a little bit of a mental break, and like that's okay. And so I haven't been doing a ton. I've been doing very little, but I feel like there was a lot of dialogue around trying not to make myself feel guilty for not writing, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I think too that when it comes to, I don't know, we've talked a little bit about this. I think this is important, or an important reminder that writing is such a unique process. And that's why it is so hard to like give writing advice or go seek out writing advice for process and how someone does something, because you really have to be in tune with yourself. Like
Yeah.
you said, like now you can see why, like, oh, editing as I go became a roadblock. And it sounds like because you weren't maybe in the right headspace to write. And so you felt like you had to do something.
Yeah.
But then it was more of just like a procrastination. And
Yeah.
like you said, like not as useful. So I
Hmm.
feel like, I don't know, it's just all about knowing how you're feeling. And just because someone might be out there, I know so many people who are out there burning the midnight oil every single day. That is not me. And I think sometimes you just have to like remember
Yeah.
or come to peace with like who you are and what your process is. Like maybe
Yeah.
you are a midnight oil burner and you're like, every single day I churn it out. That's who
Yeah.
I am. Or you could be somewhere in between Ari and I, where like we have modes of that. And then we have to kind of, sometimes you have to put it back in like the slow cooker
Yeah.
for a day or two.
Yeah. And I think it's also like, I think there's also a really big distinction, and I love that you brought that up, Mick, is like you need to come to terms with like how you work, because I think I had shot myself in the foot in years prior because I had wished my process was a particular way and it wasn't.
Mm,
And I had to like really learn what did work. And I feel like that's like really a huge part of the process is like, it's not like wishing that like I worked in this way. It was like really having to just be like, okay, like how are we feeling? Like what's going on? You know what I mean? And that's like really hard to do, especially because sometimes, and I don't know if you're like this, but like I truly sometimes wish I was like a little robot who could just
yeah.
like flip on a switch and just be like, do, 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 like every single day and not have to, this sounds so terrible, but like, like not have to like deal with myself,
Yeah.
deal with like the nuances of like every day or like waking up in a bad mood or like not feeling well one day or whatever it is. Sometimes it's just like really hard to like have to check in and just like see how you're doing and like see if you're up for it that day, because like I do really value consistency and like the like I love writing every day too. Like it feels like it's
Mm.
just like it makes me feel like I had a better day if I was like able to sit down and write. But I do think sometimes like there are there are um there are periods of time where like it's okay to step back. And I think that
Hmm.
those periods of time are really necessary. And I think a lot of the time it can be brought on either by like maybe you have a really busy schedule, maybe you're really run down, maybe who knows, there's stuff going on. But also, even if it's none of that stuff, like sometimes your brain just needs a break and you don't need to rationalize it any more than that. Sometimes you just need a break.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point of just needing a break. I don't feel like our society allows us to accept a break because obviously we're really focused on efficiency. It's being creative under a capitalistic society. It makes you feel like a failure if you aren't like churning every day out words. And we talked a little bit about it a couple weeks ago with like the quantity versus quality. It really also depends on what stage of the process you're in. Like there are some stages where it is so not beneficial to just sit down and churn out words to churn out words.
Yeah.
Like right now I'm in that stage where it's like I feel like I'm like, okay, Mikayla, it doesn't really freaking matter. Just sit down and write. But I know as you get further and deeper into the process, that is not advantageous. And it's way better to just like take a step back and breathe and then dive into it.
Yeah. I also love that expression of like, it's really not that serious. And I feel like I've been trying to kind of hold on to it because I feel like part of a little bit what the block was is I think I was just taking it really seriously and I was like trying so hard, oh my God, to like get it polished. I was like, I want this to be a polished draft. I want this to be a clean draft. And inevitably, when you do that, you put pressure. Ollie is back. You put pressure and you just take it a little bit too seriously that it like sucks the fun and the joy out of it. And I think that that can be very difficult to pinpoint. I think, especially if you're like me and Mick and you want to be traditionally published, I feel like the baseline is almost like you need to take it seriously and you like need to
Yeah.
take it super serious and, you know, have goals and have aspirations and have these lofty dreams, whatever it is. But inherently, when you do that, it's you're putting pressure on it and it sucks the joy out of it. And I think that that's where I was really finding myself of it just didn't feel fun. And I just needed to take a step back. And now I'm like, okay, just like we're going to tread lightly and we're just going to like find the fun in it because if I'm not having fun writing it, nobody's going to have fun reading it.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, I'm just thinking back to like I remember just like last week, a couple weeks ago, one of like my friends was like how's your book coming along? And I was like, oh, the dreaded question. I was like, yeah, it's not done, you know, it's like laughable. Like I thought I was going to have it done in April and now I'm lucky if I get it done by the end of the year. But then my husband cut in and he was like, no, Michaela's being ridiculous. She's taking a notoriously 2-year process and she wants it done in 6 months. And I was like, yeah, fair,
There's
fair.
nothing like your husband just like calling you out on your shit, you know?
Absolutely, especially because he's not a creative. So like
Mhm.
I mean, he's creative in different ways. He's just not like I guess like an artsy guy. He's a finance bro. I hate to say it. My husband's a finance bro. And sucks to admit out loud, but I did marry one of those and he is such a numbers and like business logic guy. It is so nice though for him to like for him it is so nice though for him to like see the I don't know, or I guess for me to hear him talk about my art process from his lens, it really
Mm.
puts it into perspective.
Yeah, absolutely, but I think it's so funny to me because somebody that you're so close to can often call out something that you have like totally normalized to yourself, right? Like,
Mm,
so it's like, yes, absolutely. Like, I can do this thing in 6 months that would normally take somebody 2 years, but it's like in our brains, it's like, yeah, I should totally be able to do that. Like, why would I not be able to do that?
of course.
And so I love that he said that though, because I think it really does offer perspective and just, you know, that perspective of we put so much pressure on ourselves. And it's not just pressure of making it good, but it's also pressure of time
Hmm.
that sometimes like you really do need somebody to just be like, it's okay. Like it's going to take a while and that's normal and that's to be expected and that's fine.
Yeah, and what you were saying about traditional publishing, like we both are trying to be traditionally published, and there is already like an air of seriousness that people take it, but so funny because like we're taking it so seriously, so strict now. And I think you said this a couple episodes ago. I never really know because we have like a backlog
It's
and
so
we're editing this ourselves and then I'm listening to the episodes as they come out every week as well, so I'm like, when did we say this? I don't know, but we previously said, you reminded me that like this is the one time that we don't have like crazy deadlines. Like we can
yeah,
actually just like flow in the art state
yeah,
before we actually get to a business and a career, hopefully, that we both want, but also that is like plagued with crazy deadlines or
yeah,
contracts where you've signed away saying, yeah, I'm going to do a book a year. And right now it's literally just for us. Like I mean, we could take 10 years if we wanted to.
yeah,
We don't. But yeah, it's really easy to just, I don't know, just creating under a late stage capitalist society where everyone's asking about your outputs. And sometimes art requires like a pause in the outputting to have a better output.
And I think also just like, I think what you said the other week also really resonated. Again, what is time? What are the
When did
episodes?
we say this? I don't
I
know,
don't
but
know.
everyone will have heard all of everything we've said by the time this episode is out, at least.
That's true. I think what you said, I think in response to maybe Becca's voice note, but it was like really try to romanticize and like find the joy and try to make it nice. And I think
Yeah,
this is me segueing into like what we learned this week from reading and writing. But
perfect.
I think I'm trying to take that, actually, your advice from a prior week, and just like, let's find the joy in it again. Let's find the fun in it again. Because I think I was so much dreading to sit down to write because I was like, this just like doesn't feel fun. And like, I
Yeah.
never want writing to not feel fun. Like, first and foremost, like I just usually always have a blast, and I've just wound up putting so much pressure on myself that it has not felt fun. And
Mm-hmm.
so I am taking past mix advice of like, how can we romanticize? How can we make this fun? Like, what is the nugget in the scene that when I first outlined it, I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. This is going to be interesting. And if I can't find that, then like, how can we change the scene or alter things slightly so that like there's a little something that I'm like, this is going to be fun, and just really try to find the joy in it again. Because I feel like for the past week, it's been a little bit hard to find.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's great. Let's all find the fun in writing.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Mick? What have you learned this week from reading/writing?
I didn't think about this beforehand. I should have. It's funny because I feel like when we ask ourselves this every week, it's like I feel like I'm learning stuff for future me because it's stuff that I'm not, again, even getting to yet with just finishing this draft. But I am listening to The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley, and she does a really good job. So it's a ton of POV characters. We have some, interestingly, in first POV. There's one person in third POV.
Wait. So how many POVs were
There's
there? Three?
four,
Three
three
and first?
girls, three in first. We have Emma, Miranda, and Katie in
Okay.
first person, and then one man. Ew.
And third.
And it's in third because he's a
Interesting.
man. I think it's actually really interesting because it's a man who's not in their friend group. So I
Mm.
wonder if that's also why, because it makes him distant in a way. It's really interesting. And again, I'm like, sometimes this stuff sucks because I'm like, this only would be allowed for someone who's already written multiple books. Like, I
Mm.
just feel like they put a lot of restrictions sometimes on debuts for like breaking the norm because I get it. You haven't proven yet that you can like fully whatever. So stupid. But anyways, I think that Lucy has done a really good job in this book of reminding me how to have really good interiority moments
Mm.
while being able to tell something about someone else and the character that's speaking. And it all comes down to comparison. It's like you have like a fun learn and I have a craft learn. But it all comes down to like comparison, and I have to remind myself all that like all the time, even when I'm drafting. I want to try to get it on paper that when your character sees something, is thinking of something, most often than not, they're going to think about themselves as well. Because it's like human nature to do that,
Yeah.
to compare us versus them, whoever they're looking at or thinking about. Sorry, I don't have the book physically because I've been listening to it, but I'm trying to remember there was like one line where this girl is observing a couple and they like are so affectionate with each other, and then she says like, oh, they're always like that, like the lovebirds in every room, and every time I look at them it just reminds me how single I am.
Mm.
Like everyone else like is like those two, and I'm over here like this fucking sucks. And she wrote it obviously way better, but I thought that was like a really, she's been doing that constantly throughout the whole book with like every paragraph. I feel like doing a really good job of someone making an observation about someone else and then
Yeah.
in turn comparing it to their own life. So we kind of
Interesting.
get like two birds with one stone. Like I'm learning more about people around them, but then
Yeah.
also how they feel about themselves in
Mm.
turn. And I feel like that's what really makes for good interiority, because like whether or not someone wants to come out and say that they're a judgmental person, I don't think you have to be a judgmental person to be making judgments in the privacy of your own head, because it's not even if it's like a bad judgment. It's more like it's just you. It's you
Yeah.
against the things that you're experiencing in your life. You're
Yeah.
judging someone based on your own experiences or opinions. And that's, I feel like that is very normal. And I think that's what makes for like really good interiority, or people that feel real because they're
Mm.
constantly thinking about everything going on around them.
I love this lesson. That is so good. It's so funny because I was just talking about this with somebody, but I have two thoughts. Okay. The first thought is, have you heard of an MRU, a motivation reaction unit?
No.
Okay. So it's this craft term called the motivation reaction unit. I think
Writing
in
this
one of
down.
Brandon Sanderson's like old writing lectures, I think it's the short story lecture with when he actually had a short story author come in and I think to discuss. She introduced what's called a motivation reaction unit. And it's basically you want interiority or like the thought process of your character, whoever character's head you're in, to follow this motivation reaction unit. And so there's like a stimulus, which like in your example is these two couples, this couple who's like all over each other or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the motivation, that's the stimulus. And then the reaction unit is when the character is like, oh, like this makes me feel so single, right? But I think what's also so perfect about the motivation reaction unit is like it naturally resembles how we think as humans, right? So like
Yeah.
you have a stimulus and then you're going to have a reaction as your like brain processes that stimulus, right? But it also works for psychology because have you ever heard of the spotlight effect?
No.
Okay. I was just talking to somebody about the spotlight effect. I'm like nerding out so hard right
I
now. Okay.
love it. I'm writing everything down.
I love it. So, the spotlight effect is basically a psychology term, if I have this correct, but it's essentially that everybody tends to think that they have a spotlight shining on them and that everybody is thinking about you just as much as you're thinking about you. Right. And so it's like every individual person has their own spotlight effect because, like, by virtue of being in your own head and thinking about things in relation to you, you think that people are thinking about you just as much. And I often think about the spotlight effect if I'm like having a social anxiety moment and I'm like, oh my God, this person must think this. And then I'm like, wait a minute, like they probably aren't because like this is the spotlight effect in action, right? But that's like the perfect example of the spotlight effect in fiction, right? Because it's like you have the stimulus and then you're always going to be bringing back that stimulus to yourself and how it relates to you and into thinking of like, how you are in relation to everybody else because that
Mm.
is like how our brains work, right? Like we are thinking about ourselves in relation to everything first and foremost. And so, yeah, I just loved that as a lesson for this week because I think it
Well,
relates to like so
and
many psychology and like craft terms.
we talked about this with your cycle class,
Yeah.
spotlight effect in
Yeah.
action in the beginning of this episode.
Yeah. Oh my God.
No, I
Good
really like
point.
that.
Full circle.
I know, I wrote both of those down. I think those are two good things to think about when thinking about character development and interiority, especially the spotlight effect. Because, yeah, like in this book, all the first person POV characters are reflecting back on themselves, but not just themselves. I think something else that's interesting that's happening that I thought of when you were talking about this with the spotlight effect, or at least the motivation reaction unit. How do I explain this? There are times where, since these characters are all people who've known each other forever, they will sometimes anticipate what someone's going to say or how they're going to react, but then that person doesn't react that way. And it says more about them
Like
than the
anticipating.
person. Yeah. So, like,
Yeah.
this woman was expecting one of these guys to make like a really like crass joke at that moment, and he didn't. And she was like, hmm. But it says more about her and how she views that character than who that person actually is. And
Yeah.
then it makes you wonder, like, have they changed, or are you someone who, like, is constantly expecting the worst to happen around these friends or in these situations? So stuff like that too just like makes characters feel like you're actually in someone's head. Because I I've just been thinking a lot about interiority as as I'm trying to end this stage and get to the next stage, because I feel like it's something that really can only start to get built up in like later drafts. Because
Mhm.
in that first draft it's like we're in someone's head, but I am like stage directing. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
happening, then this is happening, then that's happening. And I'm looking at all these things happening right around me. Whereas, like, as you get further into edits, it's like, okay, all this stuff is happening around me. How do I actually think about what am I actually thinking about now that I know
Mm.
what's happening around me? So it's just like the added layer.
It's so funny because also when I was going through and like reading through those chapters, it's like I kept writing like interiority here, like every couple things, and I couldn't figure out like what the interiority is. I couldn't figure out like what the interiority would be there, but that is like such a good point. And I do really feel like interiority, and like as that character becomes more fleshed out and real, and you really think about all of those. I love that example that you brought to of that like indirect characterization of like,
Mm,
is this actually saying something about this other character? Is that saying something about you as a character and how you tend to think about people? Like, I love that. And I feel like absolutely that's going to be built with layers.
yeah. Fun. So we have a motivational thing that we learned and then a craft thing.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. Do you want to just skip to what inspired you this week? So, as I'm sure you could tell, I was a little down this week. So basically, I have just this like little notebook that I use for actually like book ideas, little fun tidbits of information, or like little quotes that like I find really beautiful. And I like just collect them in this like little notebook. And so I found this quote because I was feeling kind of out of it. And I was just like, okay, like let's try to reframe this feeling of like, I'm not enjoying my draft. I'm not finding the fun in it. Like I'm kind of avoiding it when I like normally don't. Okay, this is the quote. What a privilege to be tired from the work you once begged the universe for. What a privilege to feel overwhelmed by growth you used to dream about. And
I love that.
yeah, I really loved it because I think it's like such a positive little twist on things of like, I think it's really easy for us to be tired, and I think it's really easy for
Mhm.
us to be overwhelmed. And I think those are two emotions that I feel semi regularly, if not daily. And I think it was like a really nice reframe because I think I like always want to like improve in my craft. I always want to improve in my art. I always want to feel like I'm growing and getting better. But sometimes that's just like not the way it works. Like even flowers like don't bloom during the winter, right? Like there are
Mhm.
seasons where there's just like things need to rest. Um, but it's also like, yeah, it is really a privilege to like feel tired for like, I had this book idea that like I love and like I want to work on and I'm feeling a little burnt out on it. But like, what a privilege that is to like be tired from working on like my art. And like, what a privilege it is that like I've gotten to a point with my art that I can like see the intricacy and the nuance of like the story that I'm trying to build. And I feel like I'm growing like by the growth that you used to dream about. And like I'm growing and I'm getting there, even if I'm not there yet and I'm feeling overwhelmed by it. And that just like really helped me. So I thought I would share if it helped anybody else.
I love that. No, I think that's a really good lesson of, yeah, a good positive spin, like you said, on some of the negative feelings we can have sometime within the process.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. How about you? What inspired you this week?
Well, I listened to a podcast that I could talk about forever. It's called The Telepathy Tapes. Season
Yeah.
one is
Okay.
all about how nonverbal, like autistic kids are telepathic.
Mm,
And
fascinating.
it is
Yeah.
so fascinating. It is, I'm probably not the best person to talk about this scientifically because I'm like, you tell me something, I'm like, sounds real to me. I
Yeah.
feel like everything is a little believable. I mean, it seems legit to me. I think it's really well put together, but I'm listening to season 2 as it comes out, which still talks about telepathy in some aspects, but they had an episode on creativity, which I thought was really interesting. When I saw it listed there, I was like, huh. And they had a ton of artists speak and writers, a lot of writers on talking. It gets a little woo woo what I'm about to say, but they were talking about creativity in terms of like the collective consciousness of how a lot of writers can like sit down and sometimes like the dreaded question is like, how did this idea come to you?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
like as writers, I think we all joke or laugh like when we hear that question, because like on my podcast where I interview authors, I'm always like, I know this is the worst question to answer, but people always want to know. So like,
Right. Like you've
what is the
literally asked so
inspiration?
many people that question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and everyone hates it. And I totally relate because if someone asks me, I'm like, I don't fucking know. And usually what's funny is like, it's because it's not usually some solid idea. It's like these fragments of our lives or other inspirations that come together to form this clear image. A lot of writers on this podcast are just explaining how ideas are very fluid. Like they flow through them like water. Like they appear one day, sometimes as like a dam has broken. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a great idea. All the pieces are connecting. I need to write this down. I need to write this. And then some days it's like a little trickle, like a drizzle is happening. And you're like, oh, okay, that's really nothing.
Yeah.
But how all writers spoke about not only how they get their inspiration, but sitting down and writing, I was like, this is so relatable. Every writer seems to be trying to achieve this flow state. And
Yeah.
they were equating it to kind of like getting this flow state from elsewhere, that it doesn't come from you. You're like actually tapping into something bigger than you and allowing yourself to like get all of this out. And they talked about how like, the Greek muses and everything, and how we used to see art that way as something kind of external from us that we tapped into instead of something internal, like a motivator. And I don't know why that was helpful. I think from last week with our crash out, and even this week, we're talking about like pressure to perform and to get it right. And I feel like some people could push back on the idea that your creativity is external, because you're like, no, it's coming from me. It's like a very personal story. Like the story I'm writing is very personal to like things in my life, but I like the idea that it's coming from somewhere else and I have the ability to tap into it on some days, and some days I might not be able to. It like really took the pressure off for me this week, because sometimes I was like, you know what? I'm not connecting to it today. The flow state isn't coming.
Yeah.
That's okay. I will get there another day. And then when I connect to it with like yesterday, I mean, I was like in the zone. Like it really does feel like my brain shuts off and you're
Yeah.
just like, were they good? No, but words are just like absolutely rushing through you. And
Yeah.
so I don't know, for me, it helped this week to think about creativity as maybe more the Greeks did, with like an external muse, an external place we tap into instead of something inherently through me. Because then sometimes it makes me feel like I'm like not motivated enough or dedicated enough, or like something's wrong with me. And it was kind of nice to be like, nope, just not today. Maybe I'll connect to it tomorrow.
I love that. I love that thought that it is external though. Like, it's interesting because it like doesn't matter if it's internal or external. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's mattering in how you're relating to it and how you're thinking of it, and like how it's kind of easing up the way in which you're connecting to your story now. Like
Yeah.
that's so beautiful and so interesting. I really love that.
Well, they had a really fun anecdote too. I'm going to butcher it, so everyone just go listen to the episode. But they talked about how, like, the word genius, and we use it so flippantly now, but we used to say, like, this family had a genius for whatever they were good at, like music, writing, cooking, what have you. Did you know that genius, the word, like, comes from this idea that there was like a little gnome in your house who was called a genius.
Are you kidding?
No, it came from this idea that you had a what was called a genius in your home, like a little fairy sprite. And it followed your family around. And so that's why your family had like a musical genius that gave the whole family like this ability to like be amazing at music.
I'm afraid you just blew my mind.
It was crazy. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Because now we use it so flippantly. We're like, oh, you're a genius. But like, yeah, it used to be more like you have a musical genius or a writing genius. Whereas like, yeah, you have this like little sprite in your home that allows you to be good at this.
Have you ever played The Sims?
I'm obsessed with The Sims.
I love it. But all I can think about are those gnomes that you have to feed on the
Yes.
holidays. And now I'm
Yes.
just like, yes, we need to like appease the gnomes.
You have to
Like we
appease the
need to
gnomes.
appease the art gnomes so that we have our writing genius comes
Yes.
to us easier.
I don't think sometimes we don't take care of our art gnomes enough. And maybe that's why we're burnt out. Maybe I have to be baking more cookies to feed my art gnome like Santa Claus, leave cookies out at
Yeah.
night. And if the cookies are gone, I know the art gnome is happy and I
We got to
can write
keep
my book.
our art gnomes really happy and at home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That is like my most favorite little tidbit of information I think I've ever received. I had no idea
Yes, it was
that that's
crazy. But it
the
makes a
root
lot of
ideology of the
sense.
word genius. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but even
Yeah.
like the word, like they were talking about, like the word museum comes
Mm,
from muse. And it was like museums were like a shrine to the muses
mm.
because you'd like give all of your art offerings up to the muses who gave you the ability to do the art.
Okay, this is such a tangent, but this is
Love a
so
tangent.
fascinating because I'm really into this YouTube channel called Esoterica, and it's like
Okay.
fascinating. Like if you're interested in like esotericism or like cultish practices or like ancient cults, like anything like that YouTube channel is phenomenal. But basically, before we had monotheism, and like this whole tangent is not going to be any critique on religion in any way, shape, or form. That
Of
is not the
course.
purpose of this, just like disclaimer. But like before monotheism existed, like religion tended to be like really like location dependent. That's why like so many pagan gods we had so many, like there was the god of the sun, the god of the sea, the god of the
Mm-hmm.
trees, the god of the earth, right? There are so many different pagan gods, and it was like all super location dependent because like that is how human brains tend to think, right? It's like there is a god that is tied to this tree or like
Mm-hmm.
that is tied to this hill. And I feel like what you're saying is like so like, and it makes sense, right? Because like the Greek pantheon and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
like that's how they tended to think about art is like as the separate entity, like the separate god. And it's also so interesting because I feel like I've heard so many authors also talk about it in this sense of like, I can't explain it. It just like happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's like a little bit of mysticism in there of like when you externalize it and like outsource it to this like listen, I'm not saying we're pagan or anything like that, but like
I mean, are we? I'm about to start feeding my little writing genius that lives in my home, making it come back to me.
but it's just like I think it's like this really interesting first I think historically it's just like really fascinating to think about
Yeah.
like how we have thought about creativity and art in all of these different ways and how that has so dramatically changed to today. But also like there is a little bit of like woo woo when it does come to creativity that like even artists today can like definitely reckon with where there's just like a little bit of magic, a little bit of I
Yeah.
don't know.
No, it's interesting. Yeah, they had Elizabeth Gilbert on this episode, which, lately Elizabeth Gilbert's recent book has been an interesting topic of conversation, but her book Big Magic, I guess is I haven't read it, but I guess it's like all about this. And now I'm kind of like maybe I should read it, where she does talk about how writing is like a form of magic, because a lot of writers are like, I don't know how I did this. I just did it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's just kind of how it came to be. And she had this really fascinating, not another tangent. Liz Gilbert had this crazy idea for a story that she had been working on for years. I had like been growing inside her. It was about like a widow whose husband died while trying to build a highway through the rainforest, because that was based on a true story where like somewhere, I don't remember where, in the rainforest, like in history, was trying to build this huge highway through it. And so fascinating. The wilderness just kept eating it up and not allowing for a highway to be there. And she loved that idea. She was like, that's so interesting. But she wanted to write about this like widow who's also was attached to it somehow because her husband like died in this process. I don't know. She had a whole book idea. She had been writing notes on it for 2 years, but never got around to like writing it. And she got busy with life and other things. And then she met Ann Patchett, who's also like another great writer. And she was like, Ann Patchett was so excited to meet, and they like embraced, and even like Ann Patchett came up and kissed her and was like, I love you and your work. And then they got coffee like months later, finally, like one-on-one, to like actually get to know each other. And Elizabeth Gilbert, in this time, the idea that she had went away. It like just didn't spark her anymore. She was kind of done with it. She was moving on to something else.
Okay.
When she got coffee with Ann Patchett, she was like, what are you working on? And Ann Patchett described to her the book that she had been working on for 2 years that she never wrote, but had been like,
stop it,
marinating. And they both joked that it got exchanged in the kiss because Ann Patchett was looking for new work. She was open to a new book. And Liz Gilbert was like, she was too busy with other stuff in her life. And so the idea, it's like she did the marinating work and then it went to the person who could actually execute it at that time.
That's crazy.
It was crazy. But it makes sense.
What
to me,
are
I'm kind
the
of like,
chances?
no, like literally, they said, like she said, like it was so specific. Like it was so specifically the book. And she was like, we see this all the time with like how all of a sudden, like, yes, traditional publishing is like running the trends, but also there's always like all of a sudden a lot of books that feel similar coming out like all at once. Did you also know from this is crazy stuff from this episode? The telephone
like this is the
patent.
most. Wait, what? What is that?
The telephone patent, like from Alexander Graham Bell. Someone else applied for a patent of the exact, like of the telephone 1 week later, the other side of the world.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's just weird.
Okay. So there's this, I grapple with this. This is so challenging for me because I feel like I just like there's the scientist part of my brain that's like so like facts, data, blah, blah, blah. But also, have you ever heard of like Nobel Prize syndrome?
No.
Okay. So it's basically like a third of Nobel Prize winners just get like real kooky after they win a Nobel Prize.
Really? After?
Yeah. And like, I don't know if it's like because they have been validated by like probably the most prestigious award that you could possibly get. But like so many just get real kooky and like start believing really wild things. And so I think that there's one or a couple who like start basically, have you heard of like the Gaia theory of the earth? You know, like is Horton Hears a Who the one where it's like I feel like my brain, I'm like jumping everywhere today. Horton Hears a Who is the one where like it's the elephant finds like the little world on the dandelion, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we the little world on the dandelion?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Gaia theory
scares me so much.
Is basically that like the entire earth is just like one huge organism and that like we are all small portions of one larger organism like on earth. And like I believe like a couple Nobel Prize winners like started like really digging into this like Gaia theory. Also, like I could be totally wrong about this and this could be totally anecdotal, but like I just find it really fascinating how you have so many people who are like, there's like something that can't be quantified by science to date.
Mm-hmm.
But like, and I don't know if it's social media. I don't know if it's just like maybe this is like the natural progression of like human knowledge and logic, which is like the telephone patent that like, you know, maybe they both just were thinking about similar things and technology became available and it just so happened. But like, I think it's kind of like a fun little thought exercise. And at least for like the fiction part of my brain, like a
Right.
creativity exercise to kind of be like, what if the Gaia theory was true? What if Horton Hears a Who was true?
I just feel like we don't know anything.
We don't know anything.
I feel
Like
like we
we
don't
know
know
some.
anything. We know some, but not everything.
I know.
I don't know. I find, the older I get, the more I'm like, the Buddhists are correct. I think they've
Yeah.
just had it right the whole time, and we're all just trying to figure out something else. And they're like, we've known the answers for quite some time. Because, like, this whole podcast episode was, it's like the whole collective consciousness and how, like, all of our thoughts make up everyone's reality. So the more negative we all are, the more negative the whole world becomes, etc. And that's exactly what monks have been doing. Like,
Yeah.
there are monks who are just dedicated to be elevating that's why they pray 24/7, because they're
To elevate the collective
elevating the
consciousness.
collective consciousness. And sometimes I'm like, maybe we're just too modern of a time that there's not enough monks anymore to help elevate our collective consciousness. And social media has made us all negative, and now the world is going to shit.
I think that's a solid thought,
I think so
honestly.
too.
Like,
So we need more monks.
we need more books. What
So
is this
actually,
episode?
I don't know. Probably all gonna cut that last part out, but we need more monks for everyone to know if this stays.
Oh my God. I just, I think there's just some things that like we don't know. We don't have the tools to know. We don't have the tools to measure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
I just like the thought of a little genius gnome giving
I
me my
know.
ability to write.
It really takes the pressure off.
It does.
It's
It
like, oh, your
does.
gnome is a little grumpy today. Sorry. No words for you.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Ugh.
And that's why, like, museums are this temple shrine to the muses, because, like, people would create and then gift it to, like, the deities that gave them the ability to do so.
Mm.
And I'm like, that's so nice. It's like a little offering, like our cookies for our gnomes.
Yeah, gnomes need cookies.
They do. I mean, if I was a gnome, I'd want a cookie. But
Gosh.
yeah, see, genius comes from Latin, where it originally meant a guardian spirit for a person or place. A spirit that was in your home that gave you the ability to do something cool.
So we need to cultivate the spirits, is what we're trying to say.
So, really, what we're saying is grab your Ouija boards, girls and guys, and summon your genius. Say, hey, I gotta finish my book by the end of this year. And if I don't do that, I'm gonna go insane. So, come into my home and then watch. Then we're all haunted. And then
If we ever
horrible.
get merch, I think our merch should just be like a little gnome that like sits on your desk.
I love
Like,
that.
like that's the merch. It's just like
Feed
a
the
little
gnome.
desk gnome. Feed the gnome. Yeah.
Feed the gnome. That's our new. We change all of our branding. Feed the gnome. That's the podcast. Feed the gnome. That's actually a great podcast name.
Like, I want a little desk gnome.
I know. Should we
A little
get little
friend.
gnomes? I feel like we need to get little gnomes. You find
So
gnomes.
cute.
On that wacky note.
Okay, what a wacky. Honestly, I went to Horton Hears a Who. Who does that?
Us.
That was one of my favorite Dr. Seuss books, though.
I agree. And you know what?
It's
I
so
went to
good.
trivia last week, and they asked us, what are 4 Dr. Seuss books that have the actual animal name in them? And we only got 2, and I kicked myself
Cat in a Hat.
afterwards. Yeah, we got that. And then we got One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish.
Oh, One Fish, Two Fish. Yeah, that's
and
a good
I'm
one.
upset because I turned to my mom and I was like, Myrtle the turtle is something, right? She was like, no, it's Yertle the turtle.
Yertle. Does the Lorax count?
No, it's not an actual animal. The other one is Fox in Socks. And I put Fox in a box. So my brain was there. It just
You
didn't.
were so close for 2.
Yeah, I
You
know.
basically got them.
I know. That's what I said. I said, come on.
Not enough cookies for the gnome, and then you would
I
have
know.
been.
I didn't feed my gnome enough, and he fed me the wrong information. Feed the
I'm gonna
gnome.
use this all the time.
Me too. I'm glad we talked about the gnome. Even though technically it's like a spirit, but I like thinking of it as a gnome. Like a little Keebler elf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Or like a Thumbelina.
Yeah. Like a sprite, like a little brownie.
I prefer a gnome, I think.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like the gnome.
Me too.
Well, I hope you all feed your gnome this week.
Oh my God.
Yeah, perfect. Well, on that
Hey,
note,
I feel like I'll be inspired to write now. My gnome
yeah,
is fed,
the gnome is fed, and now we can write.
ready to go, ready to rumble.
See y'all next week.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Slay.
bye. Thanks for listening to Craft and Crashouts, a weekly podcast by Ari and Mick. If you liked this episode, be sure to follow along wherever you are listening to stay up to date for the next one. If you want to submit your crash out for the show, DM us at Craft and Crashouts on Instagram or email us at craftandcrashouts@gmail.com. Feel free to send us a voice note in either format. We'll talk to you next week with more craft talk and definitely more crash outs.